Good evening.
Sylvie.
Good evening. Welcome to our ADHD support group meeting. It is the 9th of November in the year 2022, in the great year of our Lord. And we're going to be talking about ADHD and time blindness, which really is something that I think is close to all our hearts, because it's something as ADHD people really struggle with. So welcome everybody, and I want this session to be interactive. I will let people in as we go. But let's talk about our belief. I think the most important thing is, what do you believe time is? So, guess who's joining us? Nod's from Canada. Yay, we haven't seen her for a while. Hello, Nadira, all the way from Canada. And Kinsani, welcome. Please, can I see your face, Nods? Hello from Mexico. Maribel, welcome from Mexico. Hello, Nods.
Hi, Tracy.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good, it's so nice to have you. Welcome, Kinsani, good to have you. Okay, so, hey. So let's talk about our belief about time. So what do you believe? And maybe just put your answers in the message box. What do you believe time is? So if I say time is, what is your belief on time? There's always 5 more minutes. Something I can't manage. A man-made construct. Like a maze. Where you at? Time escapes me. Think about this. This is a very, very important question. What do you believe about time? Time is I can't see time. Welcome, Talia. Talia, what we're doing is we're just talking about our belief system on time. So in order for us to understand time, blindness and time management, we need to understand, what do we believe about time? So time is, and then we're just putting it in the chat, what we believe time is. There's not enough time for all I need to do. Time is currency. Time like water for me. Okay, it's fluid. So I believe time is fleeting. I believe you can never get back the time you've lost. So I believe it's precious. I also changed my belief because I'm so busy and I've never got enough time. And I realized by me saying I never have enough time, I never had enough time, because there's no more powerful directing force in human behavior than your belief. So your belief controls reality. So if you believe you never have enough time, you will never have enough time. So I changed it and I say I always have enough time to do all the things I need to do. And I have manifested that belief. So it is very, very important that you know what you believe about time. Anybody else want to put their beliefs about time down? Raise your hands for those who believe that there is never enough time. Maribel, time is a big wall for me. Okay. Kinsani, Graham. Okay, Caleb. So, okay, thanks, guys. So Bianca believes time is restrictive. So if we had to change our belief about time, how do you think that would help us? Time is like racing that I can never win. That's your Ferrari brain, Maribel. It's your Ferrari brain. Dr. Jiva always used to say we have Ferrari brains and bicycle brakes. Okay, Anita, what is your biggest challenge with regards to time?
The biggest challenge I have is that I literally cannot see it. It needs to be in front of me. I need it to be visual. So reminders, clocks. I mean, I don't think someone who doesn't have ADHD, it's so difficult to wrap your head around time blindness, but it really, really is there. We don't see time. We don't see it. We don't have a concept of it. So the challenge is you can't judge it properly. So you struggle to plan. Planning is a struggle. Simple planning. So yeah, it's a huge thing in ADHD. Huge challenge.
Great. Graham?
Yeah, I agree with Anita. You've either got way more time than you need, so much time that you actually don't even need to start right now, or you have no time left. Time's up. You've run out of time. You just need 5 more minutes. If you had 5 more minutes, you could have finished. But yeah, it's something that's there, and then it just disappears. You don't know where it goes to. You don't know what happened to it. You know what you spent it on. I think that, you know, because you are aware, when you have ADHD, you're aware of the fact that you tend to be late and people are waiting for you, and people say, what is taking so long? And people are aware of your time, and you know that people are aware of the time you spend, but you just can't figure it out for yourself. You don't know what you did with the time. And it's probably one of the most frustrating things about having ADHD is that you can't account for what happened to it.
Who else would like to chip in there and say their challenges with time? Ron, Nods, Kensani?
I'll say something. I find with myself, the challenge is that I feel like my time horizon is so short. And I think that's where my problem lies. I can't, and I know it is an ADHD thing where you can't actually see further than 2 hours, you know, and in those 2 hours, you want to get the whole day's work done. And it's like, yeah, and I think that it's frustrating because you don't do some things that you should do during the day, and then you miss out on stuff. And it's true, like what Graham was saying as well, you kind of look back and you kind of go, what did I do today? You know, but you've done a lot and you've done so much. And I think it's actually quite, sometimes it can be quite defeating and challenging. And yeah, it's just very frustrating for me.
Cool. Kensani?
Yeah, I agree with Bronwyn 100%. It's like you go through your day and you think you've done a lot, but when you look back, you haven't done enough. But I think I've always reframed, or I'm trying to reframe the situation now, especially at work, with saying, you know what, there's always so much to do, and it's very helpful when I realize that I can only do so much in the time that I have, or the time that I afford myself, because there's actually always too much to do. Do you get what I mean? There's always work to do all the time. But I think the challenge or the main takeaway I get, or the reframing that I always use, is what can I do now to feel a sense of accomplishment and to tick off the things that I need to do now, because tomorrow there'll always be more to do. So I think I've gotten quite good at cutting myself some slack around that. But I think before it was always like very overwhelming to kind of wrap my head around the task that I had to do, and feeling like there was never enough time. But I think the reframing helps a lot to, you know, become more effective, or try to become effective with the time you have, and always realizing that there'll always be more to do. There'll always be more to do. So there's no point in trying to tackle every single thing in one day.
Cool, thanks, Kinsani. Would anybody else like to say something? Caleb? You said over here, studying, okay, let's go to your top. I find it hard to do online tests. Time just goes. Then I never finish, as I have 21-hour tests. Wow, really? What are you studying? What are you writing? Or are you just joking there? 21-hour tests. Studying is really difficult, as I always feel I leave it to the last minute. Time just goes. Yeah, so that's a typical thing with ADHD people. We use the deadline as a motivator. So we wait until the last minute, and then we know we have to do it, and then we'll do it. So using deadlines as motivators can be a big problem for us. I don't understand. It's frustrating and overwhelming. There is not enough time. Bachelor of Counting. Okay, cool. Anybody else? Okay, so let me share my presentation with you. Okay. All right, let's go slideshow. Okay, so time blindness and ADHD. All right, so a good sense of time is one critical executive function. It involves knowing what time is now, how much time is left, and how quickly time is passing. People with ADHD tend to be time blind, meaning they aren't aware of the ticking time. As a result, they often struggle to use time effectively. Overcoming your natural time blindness begins with an in-depth look at how we understand time. So time blindness and ADHD. People with ADHD consistently have challenges with perceived time, estimating how much time has passed and how much time is left before an upcoming event. Time sequencing, correctly reaccounting the order in which events occurred, and time reproduction, repeating a task for the same amount of time that it occurred previously. This time blindness may be in part related to the fact that people with ADHD do better with hot cognition, emotionally charged tasks. One study that compared time perception on neutral and emotionally charged tasks found that people with ADHD consistently performed poorer on neutral time perceived tasks than the control group, as was expected. On emotionally charged tasks, however, participants with ADHD outperformed the control group, which I'm sure you all understand. Okay, this also fits with a growing body of research on emotional asymmetry in non-ADHD populations, where strong emotional stimuli can distort their perception of time, possibly because changes in heart rate triggered by heightened emotions disrupt that internal clock. In other words, the intense emotions that can end up disrupting cognitive functions in non-ADHD brain are exactly what a person with ADHD needs to get the same functions working effectively. The need for emotional stimulation in order to perceive time accurately is further confirmed by research linking time blindness to ADHD to dopamine deficiencies. One study found that prescribed stimulants and monetary rewards, both of which increased dopamine levels, were able to improve time perception in participants with ADHD. Monetary rewards. I found that quite interesting. But when I look back on all my clients, it's very accurate. So time blindness in ADHD seems to be a combination of the brain failing to unconsciously or passively interpret sensory input like pulse rates, light levels, and temperature changes as indicators of time passing, and insufficient dopamine levels to trigger a conscious or intentional tracking of time. So Bronwyn was talking about the time horizon just now. So the time horizon, an important concept in time management, is something called the time horizon. This is essentially how far you can look into the future to plan ahead. When you're a child, your time horizon tops out at an hour or so. As you get older, your time horizon gets further away, so you can plan out the next few years at a time. People with ADHD often have shorter time horizons than do neurotypical people. To extend yours, first and foremost, you need to be more aware of time. So let's look at what are your time stealers. Okay. You want to put it in the chat, think about it. What are the things on a daily basis that steals your time? We all got time stealers, and then, okay, Instagram Reels, YouTube, but think about it. So as you put there, tell me if you had to estimate how much time it's stealing from your day. Okay, choosing the right font. Sure, Graham. It's interesting. Anxiety, okay. But what about how much time you think a day you spend on these time stealers, if you can? Or on the internet, YouTube, around 16 hours per day. Maribel, that's a lot. Okay, yeah. And it is a lot of us, eh? So this is not pointing fingers, this is all of us on just different levels at different stages in our lives. Instagram, okay, always meeting and chatting. Okay, Anita, 3 to 4 hours. Overthinking, putting too much thought and not enough action. Pinterest, 4 hours. Okay, and the crazy part is that a lot of the time we can justify this. Kinsani, your hands up. You want to chat?
Yeah, I'm about to justify this. Like, okay, I know that the social media thing is a time stealer, especially when you're trying to do productive tasks, and that also obviously relates to procrastination in some way or another. But I think with me, I've found that the question I want to ask is it not maybe because we're sensing a need for connection? So especially if you're like working from home or you live alone, in my case, where you just want to crave like people around you. And so you use social media as a way to connect to others, not necessarily because it's a time stealer, which it could be if you're meant to do an important task. But like, what's the correlation between, looking for a sense of connection, procrastination, and letting those things become time stealers?
Okay, Bronwyn, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, so I've done quite a bit of, I don't know if I'm right, but I've done quite a bit of research, and that's called body doubling. And apparently we like really good at working with either where we can hear a bit of noise or where there's somebody that's actually sitting with us and they're doing something else. Apparently we're more productive and I can vouch for that. I'm much more productive when I'm sitting with someone else and working. And they even have things like, I mean, it's become so like, it's been recognized so much that they even, in some instances, people have like Zoom meetings where they're working, but they've got Zoom on the whole time. There's a whole lot of people, So I don't know, Tracy, I don't know, but that's what I would assume is what it is.
Yeah, so it can be, it depends on the I suppose, intention of, it can be that, exactly what you said. And it can just be wanting that connection, especially if you work alone and you are, so Kinsani hasn't got children, she's not married. Okay, so she is isolated. She's in her flat. So I think it really does depend on a lot of different situations and circumstances. And she is a very sociable, bubbly person. So that's very hard for her. But it still could be an excusitis. it's a good way to justify, you know, why we do that. What so that could be an unhealthy way of connection. So Kinsani, what could be a healthy way of you to connect?
Well, I have to forcefully go to the office 3 times a week now, so I'm getting a lot of perceived healthy connection. But I'm not mad at that, you know, because even like I think it's just a very hectic seesaw that I'm managing. When I'm at the office, I love the connection because, like you said, I'm a very sociable person. I love to talk to people, but that doesn't do good things for my productivity. So when I do need to be productive and really work and produce the outputs that I need to do, I prefer to do them at home because then there's less noise, there's less interaction. And I think for me personally, that's where the challenge is. But I guess the you know, us being able to go to the office or being forced to go to the office a number of times a week does really force that healthy connection, because it is face to face. You can read body language, you can read tone of voice, and you can really just be in the presence of other people. Versus if you're interacting on social media, possibly with strangers, you don't know what their intentions are. That could be very unhealthy and negative. And maybe you're not having, you know, the meaningful conversations that you would with friends or family or colleagues. So yeah, I think that's where I think going to,
And carry on.
Yeah, so I think that's the healthy part, I think, is us connecting meaningfully, you know, with the people in our lives that actually provide meaningful engagements and interactions versus engaging with like random people on social media. I think that's a big difference for me, and I really do feel it, because when I come back from the office, I feel really like, okay, I haven't done much work, but socially I feel quite fueled. I feel charged up or recharged. Or if I see my partner for a couple of hours, I feel very recharged, versus if I'm interacting with random people on social media, I don't feel the same way.
But it relieves your boredom. And
yeah, it relieves the boredom. Yeah, definitely. But not in any type of meaningful way where I can go and be like, oh, you know, I feel so like recharged, versus like being in a space with a person that I know and I'm physically engaging with. That's more meaningful, I think, for me.
Okay, so that's a big time stealer, because you're trying to meet a need, but you're not meeting it. You're meeting it in a way. Yeah. Okay, cool. It's really hard to have relationships such as relationships with ADHD. That is a whole new topic, Caleb. Isn't hyper-focusing a time stealer? It can be, absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, I think it's also just being aware, if you do hyper-focus on a certain thing, that you are aware of it, and you can consciously and deliberately put time blocks on it. Okay, what anybody else time stealers? And then the next thing is, if you have that time stealer, can you control that time stealer? And what will you gain if you control it? Because remember, it's that pleasure or pain principle. So we need to look at it and say, we need to find gain, pleasure from controlling it, not pain from controlling it. Because you'll only make the change if there's more pain attached to it than pleasure. So if you are, for example, if you are spending time on Instagram and you find it pleasurable, it's going to be very difficult for you to stop that or eliminate that time stealer unless you turn it into pain. And you could say to yourself, okay, so if I eliminate this time stealer, what am I actually getting from eliminating it? So all of you think of a time stealer that you currently have. And you could say, okay, so if I eliminate it, what am I gaining besides time? And then what could I do in the time that I have, that I've eliminated?
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Jessica.
Hello.
Mhm.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Jess.
Okay. Okay, so I don't have a lot of work during the day. So a lot of my duties got cut from work. So basically I've got about maybe 2 hours of work a day, and then I just sit around and like twiddle my thumbs and whatnot. So I get bored a lot. So then I would sit on my tablet, playing games, go through the internet, browsing. And then I'm like, okay, I've got this book to read and I really want to read it. I really want to finish it. And then it's like, it's too big. Maybe later. Maybe I'll do it later. And then when I do sit and read it, then it's okay. And then you kind of get into that thing. It's okay, maybe one more chapter, and then it gets into that 6-hour reading time, and then it's like, okay, now I need to do something else, because now the reading took up more of the time than I thought it would, and now there's no time to do anything else. So I think most of the time the reading takes up more time than it should. But it's enjoyable, like you said, and it's fun. And then, yeah, and when I'm not doing that, when the parents start complaining, then you look busy when you're on your laptop or when you're browsing on the internet, and then they don't come bother you as much. So then I would rather do that than be sitting and reading. And so, and then when I do have work, actually, that's why I said, yeah, like time is actually more like, not like actually like the Bible, like I said, but it's like something that drives me to be productive, actually, because everything's got a time set. When I look at the time, it's like 7. Okay, by 8, I have got to do this, and then it's done. By 2 o'clock, this is a set time for me to do this. 2 o'clock, it's done and dusted. And then I've got the rest of the day to do what has to be done. So work time, it's very good for me. Work, it gets done. And then when it's playtime or after work, that's when I get bored and I don't know what to do with myself. And so that's where I struggle a lot.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Jess. Anybody else? Okay, so let's go back to our slide here. So you said the time stealer. So you ask yourself, can you control the time stealer? If you can control it, what will you gain? If you eliminate it? And what steps do you need to do to eliminate the time stealer? And how will you know if you're starting to get the results? So that's important. So setting alarms, okay, and then setting alarms is a good thing because it makes you aware of time. So sometimes our time sense can be wrong. We might think 5 minutes is 5 minutes, but when we actually look at timing ourselves for 5 minutes, so what we do is say, okay, this task is going to take me 5 minutes. Then you set the alarm on your watch, and well, you just set the stopwatch, and you turn your phone over, and then you do the task. And then when you finish the task, you turn your phone over again, and you can see, is your 5 minutes actually 5 minutes? Or is your 5 minutes 7 minutes? Or is your 5 minutes 3 minutes? A lot of the time, our time sense is wrong. So it's really important we find out what our time sense is. Is 5 minutes really 5 minutes? Okay, is 10 minutes really 10 minutes? So you can also change your alarm sounds, and there's lots of apps you can use as well, including the Brilli app that have got amazing things that you could use. Okay, so alarms. Over here, the next thing you could do is break down daunting tasks. So a lot of the time we procrastinate because the task is just too daunting. So people with ADHD tend to be making big transitions, like getting ready in the morning. They can take time moving, but the task seems so daunting, they can't get themselves to start. My advice is to break the final goal into small chunks and start with the tiniest, easiest chunk. Don't think of it as, I have to get ready for work. That seems impossible. Think of it as, I have to brush my teeth, which is easier. Then think of the next thing. You'll be ready before you know it. So tiny tasks, small things, okay? One thing at a time, and before you know it, once you've chunked it right down, it's easy to do the next step. Otherwise, anxiety will kick in. Okay. Then reset your focus time. Another strategy is to reset your focus time, to change the time that you associate with an event. You know you have to leave for work at 8:30, and then your brain doesn't get motivated to get ready until it's 8:30. And then suddenly you're in crisis mode. Train your brain to focus on 8 o'clock, the time you need to start getting ready. Change the time, okay? Meaning the time you pay the most attention to can help you be more conscious of how long you take. So I've got some friends, I've got a very close friend of mine, and she is always late. So now what I say to her, I say, we're leaving at 1, in the meantime, we're leaving at 2. And she gets here like at 2:10. Then I'm not frustrated, I'm not irritated, and I don't think she disrespects me, because now I know how I need to work with her. But she's ADHD, but inattentive, and she really struggles. If I have to say to her, I said, I'm going to actually change the time to an hour before. She says, no, don't, I'll be able to do it. But she's actually not able to do it. So I've learned to work with that, because then I don't get frustrated and irritated with her, because now she will make it in time, even though she doesn't like it when I do that. Okay, then plan for the unplanned. So if you tend to underestimate how long it takes you to get something or somewhere, it can be helpful to deliberately figure out the best and worst case scenarios. If you need to be at the airport at 7, the worst case scenario, terrible traffic, will take you 45 minutes, round up an hour, and decide to leave at 6. If you do the math slowly and add up as much breathing room as possible, you'll give yourself a much better chance of catching your flight. So I do that constantly. I used to, when I worked at Dr. Jiva's rooms, it was a huge lesson for me. I used to have back-to-back sessions from 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12. And then I knew it took me an hour, half an hour to get home. So then I'd finish at 1 and I'd plan my sessions at home at 1:30. But it always, if there was the lights out or there was an accident, my anxiety levels would peak and I'd stress, and I'd get, because people pay for my time, and then I'd get there and I'd be 10 minutes late. And I think I can't teach time management if I am late, even though it wasn't my fault. And I realized I wasn't planning for the unplanned. And I changed the way I did it. So now, instead of I finish at 1, my next session will be 2 o'clock. And I struggled with that because I couldn't get around, that's a waste of time. I'm wasting half an hour. And then I had to look at that 30 minutes and say, okay, so how can I actually, because I created pain around wasting half an hour, because now I'm going to finish so much later than I did. And I had to turn it into pleasure. And I say, okay, so how can I look at that half an hour, even if I get home at 1:30 and my client starts at 2, how can I actually change it where I see value? And I realized I'm less anxious. Okay, I'm calmer. I'll never let my client down because I'll always be on time. And that's so important to me. And I changed it from pain on a conscious level into pleasure. And now I always plan for the unplanned. And I value the time I have, even if I don't call it wasting time. Okay, and it's also the words we use that make a big difference. So what are some of the ways that you manage personally up to now? You manage to be more conscious of your time and to be more efficient in your time. What are some of the skills and tools that you use? So planning for the unplanned is my biggest one. It's really changed so much in my life.
Tracy, don't you feel like people get annoyed with you when you do that? Not necessarily planning for the unplanned, but I've gotten feedback that I'm an over planner. And it's because like you said, there's the anxiety part of it where you don't want anything to go wrong. Like imagine you miss your flight because you didn't plan, better, like for traffic or whatever it is. But when I do that, a lot of people find me very uncomfortable to be around. Or like they'll say, why are you so like worked up? And it's not because I'm worked up, it's because I'm really just conscious of the fact that I do lose track of time, and it's better for me to rather do things way ahead than to do it than to be late, basically. So I have a lot of trouble dealing with that. Like, so I'm a generally punctual person, but in situations, especially that involve a lot of money, like flights, activities, holidays, where there's actual like set times where we need to be places, people find that to be very pedantic behavior. So maybe I need to communicate that better to say, look, my ADHD is it's like it's the driving force behind why I need to make sure we're there, at least 30 minutes before the activity needs to start. So yeah, I think maybe I've just answered my own question, actually, to be like I just need to inform people why I'm so caught up on making sure we're there on time. And it's not me being pedantic or having a carrot up my ass. It's just like, I just want to make sure that things happen and we don't miss anything.
Yeah, so there is time boundaries as well. So, we also cross people's time boundaries when we are not on time. And a lot of people, the neurotypicals, relate as being disrespectful. So I've got a hairdresser who I go to who's amazing. She's incredible, but she's always, always late. And I've changed my hairdresser because I just can't manage it. And it's just she's a perfectionist and she's always trying to make everybody's hair perfect. So her intentions are amazing, but I feel my time is so limited, so I feel disrespected. And it's to work through all of that and say, okay, so it's not that. So if I choose to go to her, I must understand that she's a perfectionist and that's what she does. And it's not intentional to cross my time boundaries. So it's to look at situations also in ways that work for you in your mind and not be offended. So Kinsani, in the work I do, I don't mind being anal. I am on time. If I'm going to teach you time management, I'm going to be on time. I'd rather be 10 minutes early or an hour early than 2 minutes late. Mm-hmm. But then I find in those times that I am early, I have a book to read, I have a presentation to make, so I find value in the time. So I don't waste my time.
Okay.
Maribel, that's interesting what you said now. You said so yeah, there's lots of people saying lots of things here. So time ago, I was very demanding with punctuality, but it was because it was very difficult for me to achieve. So Maribel, if you had to say, is your time sense right? Is your 5 minutes 5 minutes?
Can you repeat me, please?
Is your time sense right? So is your 5 minutes 5 minutes? Or have you ever tried to see what your time sense is?
It depends, because it's the situation. If I can be on time, maybe for work, for take a plane, for example, but it's hard for me. I can lose a lot of meetings, but I don't have any clue about the time for other activities. But for me, in this example, it was years ago, time ago, because it was for everything. I was trying to be a good person, maybe a perfect person, about it, to be on time, and it was about, I was fighting about for to be there on time, but not, I wasn't doing very good. That's the explanation.
No, that's great. So I see you linking, from what I'm hearing from you, is you're linking not being on time to your self-esteem, where it affects your self-esteem.
Yeah. This kind of meetings can show me that is not my is not
My intention.
it's not my intention. It's not. I'm not feel guilty anymore about how I am. And this starts like 1 year ago, and I start to change to change everything, and I meet people who's nice with me, who is not judging me. In general, it's a better situation. My stress is low, absolutely, but I can see how my behave in the past. It was bad with the persons because I was accepting these kind of behaviors, being punctual, to be like like a robot, indeed, because it was hard for me, and I was demanding that kind of respect from the other people. But now I can see it doesn't matter, because 5 minutes late, it's like, don't worry, it's okay. I can do other things main well. So that's that's all.
No, that's great. Thank you. So you've adjusted your attitude and the way you see it. And that works well for you. So it doesn't upset you, and it serves you well that way.
Yes.
Okay, so Bron says, being a mom, having time tardiness can leave you feeling really guilty. Example, getting my girls late to school when they were very young, which always stressed them out. My tardiness overlapped onto them. Yep. Which again then affects our self-esteem. So one of the biggest problems we have with ADHD, because of all our challenges, is our self-esteem. And I think this is all about understanding ourselves. It's not making excuses, it's understanding ourselves, because then we can work on being better.
Tracy.
Yes. Hello.
Everyone needs to get an Alexa app. Really, it's. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
You're fading in, Nods. Everybody must get a what?
An Alexa. Do you know Alexa?
Alexa.
A laser app.
No. So basically, it's a little device that you can basically ask questions.
What can I add for you?
So can you hear her right now? She's talking with me.
Can you see your shopping list?
Alexa, stop. So basically, she's a little robot. So if you tell her, Alexa, set the timer for a certain amount of time, she'll set the alarm. It will go, Alexa, what is the time now? So constantly, if you like us,
12:50 p.m.
Alexa, stop. So every time I say a name, she goes on for herself. But basically,
you should be in bed, Nods. It's midnight there.
No, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
1 a.m.
1 p.m.
Oh, 1 p.m. Are you behind us?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's fine. So is it like Surrey?
It's like Suri, but better, way better. It's not, so basically, she does everything.
Oh, she sounds amazing.
Yeah, so just because, like you're saying, you lose track of time and stuff like that. So while you're busy and your mind is drifting into another zone, you kind of pull yourself like, hey, what's the time? And if it's not in front of you and it's not like visual, like you say, or like we used our phones nowadays for times, no one has big clocks and stuff like that. So this is just, okay, Alexa, what's the time now? Okay, you know where you are, you know what's going on. Kind of like just keeps you in the moment. Also, I just wanted to say on Kensania, she was saying that she's like very pedantic about time and like how you don't want to overstep. So basically you overplan and you're always pushing yourself further than you need to. And so you stress yourself out a lot. So actually, like, when you're going on a holiday and you're like, okay, no, I got to get this. And you like, instead of enjoying the trip and that, you're so focused on around like trying to figure out time, just getting there on time and that you lose actually, like being time blind and that you lose a lot of the good joys of
Yes, exactly.
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like
Yeah.
so the people around you don't understand that and kind of get like stressed out about like, why are you being like this? Why can't you just be normal and enjoy the ride or enjoy the trip or enjoy the flight kind of thing? So I do get you on that sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Nod.
Yeah, sure.
Anybody else?
And one more major thing, I think, sorry, it does take away a lot of self-esteem, literally does take a lot of self-esteem. Like we say that we do so much, but we can't see it. So because we can't see what we're doing, and because we're doing it at such a fast pace, like what we can do in 1 hour, basically, someone else will take maybe 3-4 hours to do it. So because we're doing it in 1 hour, we're like, oh, okay, so why didn't I achieve more today? I could have done this and this and this and this, but you don't, because we're so fast at what we're doing that you're sitting there and saying, okay, so now I do have extra time. Now what? Then you kind of like feel guilty that you should have done more and you put more on yourself just thinking on those lines.
I think that's where planning comes in, because you can actually see how much you've done if you plan out your day.
Yes, exactly. That's been one of my biggest aware moments, is that putting down on paper, like literally like your hour to hour, kind of just putting things in place and saying, I can do this, and this in this time. That really does change things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they say most successful people do have literal timeline for each thing that they do. Their time is specific. They wake up on a specific time. They go to sleep on a specific time. Everything is well planned out from top to bottom.
Thanks, Nod.
So I just want to say on the opposite scale of that, like with ADHD, like you sometimes don't have attention to detail. So sometimes you do take longer to do a job than you're supposed to, and then you feel like you spend too much time doing that job and you haven't had enough time at work, and then you end up taking work home. So you never know where to actually stop the work and the time.
Who'd like to answer that, Graham?
Sure. I mean, I think with ADHD, so if you have a lot of time to do something, it can run away with you. So you can sit down, think I've got 5 hours to do this one little thing, it's no big deal. In fact, I've got time to make myself coffee and I've got time to format the document and do a bit of research, and then you run out of time. So for me, that's what I do. I always spend so much time planning to do the job that I'm going to do that I run out of time to actually do the job. So for me, using apps like the Pomodoro app and Brilli app that breaks up your productive time into 45-minute chunks. It's like a safety net, because if you lose 45 minutes, it's fine. You've lost 45 minutes. You can restart again with the next one. But if you don't have that in place, you stand the chance of losing the full 6 hours, just because you've been in your own world. You don't have that break to say, all right, that was 45 minutes, it's gone now. What are you going to do with the time remaining? So when you've got these long periods of time, it can really come back to haunt you, especially when you've got massive projects. So if you've got a project like when I was doing my thesis. I had these goals and things that I had to do, but they were long-term things. Like I had 3 weeks to get this chapter done. But 90% of the time I would end up writing that chapter in the last 3 days of when it was due. So breaking everything up into smaller chunks and planning those 45-minute things means you can be accountable easier. So when your alarm goes after 45 minutes, you can say, all right, shit, I've spent 45 minutes choosing a font. I was supposed to have finished this document. Let me now for the next 45 minutes knuckle down. All right. So it's about making yourself accountable to yourself. And then just to talk about what concern, oh, she's gone now. About over planning and being over planning, getting a bit pedantic. I'll never forget, I was in trouble for having late work at varsity. And I was called into a meeting with my lecturer. He was German, he was great. And I was so stressed out about missing this meeting or being late for this meeting. I think I was standing outside his office about an hour before. So he was at lunch, he walked down the passage because he wasn't in his office when I arrived there. And I'll never forget, he just looked at me and he looked at his watch and he said, early is also not on time, in his very thick German accent. So I think that sometimes, you know, we can, with ADHD, we can be so proud of ourselves for getting there an hour early and expect a pat on the back, but you're not respecting their time either. So making your ADHD someone else's problem is not okay either. So if you need to be there an hour ahead of time, make sure you have a book. You can't impose on people if 12 o'clock is 12 o'clock, it doesn't mean 11 o'clock, and it doesn't mean 1 o'clock either. So that's just my thought.
Excellent, thank you. So we're going to close off with each of us going around and just giving each of us a tip on how we can overcome our time blindness and how we can be more time efficient. So my tip for all of you is plan for the unplanned. That's the greatest lesson I've learned in my life. And then everything goes into my diary. And I have a pencil and I have a rubber, okay? And I run my life. I'm extremely efficient because everything goes in here. Anita, what's your tip?
Yeah, so Tracy, when I first saw you in your diary, I laughed and I think I mocked you. I was like, who has a diary? And I have a diary. And this is my brain. Like, this is every thought, this is my scaffolding, like my structure. So, and then, sorry, reminders, like one's going off right now. Yeah, Brilly, reminders, use all the apps. You need to bring time very, very close to you. It needs to be visual. Yeah, you can't see it, so you have to make it, you have to build it into your day. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Build it in.
Graham, tip. Jessica, tip.
Use alarms for everything. Set an alarm for when the power's supposed to come back on and you need to turn the generator off, and then use the snooze button when it's not on yet, because it gives you 5-minute gaps to check if it's on yet. But don't trust yourself. You just can't trust yourself. You have ADHD, don't trust yourself to regulate your time. Use an alarm if you need to use an alarm. Break it up into 45 minutes. Don't trust yourself to make 6 hours productive. Do 45 minutes at a time.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, I agree. Don't trust yourself. It's not going to happen.
Any suggestions? What is your tip, Maribel?
What is my what?
Your tip. What can you tell us that works for you with time management?
But I'm missing one word. I can't understand you.
No, so what helps you with your time management with your ADHD? One thing, just one thing.
One thing, okay. I know this is hard, and I looking for the way to tackle. I'm totally agree with Grammy, is her name?
Graham.
Yes.
Graham. Because yeah, we need to understand we are in a society, and we need to respect the time for the other people, no matter what you true. So I am just trying to do not complain and do lots of things with the people, mess with the people, and trying to find my own path, because I discover in myself like my time, like my internal clock. So I'm still looking for my answer.
Wonderful. And thank you for joining us all the way from Mexico. I hope you come back next month. Bron, Natalie, Caleb, Bianca, Jessica, anybody last minute tip?
For me, it's sorry. Go ahead.
No, after you.
Go not.
So for me, it's having a different mindset, changing your mindset towards time, and just being more accommodating to yourself. Just be less stressful to yourself.
Be kinder to yourself.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Nads. Bron?
So I learned something. I got like a thing that I keep on my desk, and then what I do is when I think of something that needs to be done, I've got like 3 columns, like if it's needs to be done as soon as possible, or it can be done at a later stage, or whether it's actually should be done at all. And then when I'm busy thinking, and I'm like, overthinking while I'm trying to work and whatever, then I just write it down in whatever column it is, so that I remember it and I don't have to stress about it, and then carry on with what I'm doing. So it kind of like stops me from it doesn't interfere with what I'm doing.
Nice. Cool. Thanks, Bronwyn. Anybody else? Any last minute tip?
For me, Tracy, alarms, and more alarms. I've got calendars on all my walls. Because if I don't, I'm going to forget I need to go somewhere. I've got calendars in almost every room. So that's what, and a diary that I learned from you.
Cool.
For me, it's just time. Like I said, just doing specific things at a certain time. Like I know in the afternoons, I do daily banking from 2 to 3. That's a daily thing. It's done from 2 to 3 so it's I don't know how to quite explain it, but yeah, it's just setting time. If you've got it daily, then it's already imprinted in you, so you know exactly when it has to be done. And then when you see the clock, it's like, this has to be done. And so for me, it's just imprinting it in your mind, basically.
Excellent. Brilliant. Thank you, Jess. Anybody else?
I would say, like, well, my mind lies to me a lot when you plan, and then you just like, or like when you're sitting down to do it, you're like, I got a lot of time, I can do it. And then you end up doing something else, and the time just goes away. I would say just do it at the moment. Just do it. Don't listen to that voice inside, just do it. I think, yeah, that's quite cool. That's a really big lesson I'm trying to learn. Yeah.
So to close off, we all want to be powerful in our lives. Okay. And the literal definition of the word power is the ability to take action. So I in my mind, I want to be powerful. I need to take action. Just act. Push through, even though we don't want to, but just take action. And the more you take action, remember, the more you move, the more you grow, the more you progress, and then the happier you are. So thank you for all joining us tonight. It's been great to see you, and thank you for your participation. And I look forward to seeing you all next month. Yeah, take care and all the best. Thanks, guys.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.